All right, this Hangout is on air live. It is currently Thursday, April 2nd. Yay, new month. No April Fool's Hangouts for us, unfortunately, because it's the second, not the first, but that would have been fun. Today we're just going to do a quick check-in on the things that we're working on for Backdrop CMS, and I'm going to defer to Nate for anything that I missed last week in my absence. But we'll start with updates from the PMC. It's the same as last week, where we have a free PHP Storm licenses for Backdrop contrib developers. I think we've given away 3 or 4 to date, but we have 50. So if anyone has a inkling to use PHP Storm and you want a free license, you can email info@backdropcms.org and request one. All you have to do is be a member of the contrib group, and we can send one over to you. So as long as you've authored module or theme or dropped them in there, that's fine. And if you haven't authored a module or a theme and you still want the license, all you need to do is volunteer to co-maintain an existing project. So if you look at something and you're like, oh, I use that all the time, I'm going to maintain that, and are willing to put in the work, we're willing to give you the license. So just go ahead and email info@backdropcms.org if you're interested in using PHP Storm. And thanks to the PHP Storm guys for sending those our way too. That's pretty cool. Supporting open source. So community growth, we've got some big news here this week. We've hit the 100 number for contributed projects, which I think is pretty cool. It's now been, let's see, February, March, 2.5 months since we've released. We've got 100 contributed projects, which I think is pretty good. That's kind of proving the point that, you know, we wanted to make this easy for people to port modules to, not necessarily drop-in compatible from Drupal 7, but easy enough that, you know, modules could be ported within a couple of hours. And the fact that we've gotten 100 modules, themes, and layouts already, I think, is kind of proving that we're on the road to success, which I think is really good. So I'm super excited about that. We have 32 contributed authors, which I think is also pretty good. That means each author is doing roughly 3 projects. It hasn't quite worked out that way. Some of them have 1 and some have 20. But I think that's a good sign that we've got people who are actually building websites and you know, putting together the pieces they need to do it with Backdrop. So I think that's really, really good for us. We're working on a couple of things that aren't Backdrop, the project itself. First and foremost is Drush. I'm not sure there's been a lot of movement on this lately, but we do have a path forward. I haven't checked on it in the last few weeks for how we're going to get Drush abstracted to a point where it can work with Backdrop, and how we're going to put Backdrop-specific Drush commands in Backdrop core in a drush.inc file. We just need to make sure those 2 pieces are ready to work together. And then there's also an excellent blog post by Mike from Kalamuna about how you can hack Drush and Backdrop to get them working together now, before we get those important changes in to make them work more compatibly in the future. So if anyone wants to try that, following his blog post, I think he posted it in the Drush queue. He might have also put a link in the Backdrop queue for that issue as well. I know I want to try it on MAP. He's done it on Calabox. If anyone has any other environments, Bitnami or anything else that you want to try it on, it would be good to see if things need to be any different. Oh, Nate has something to add for Drush stuff. Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I mentioned this last week while you were out, that Greg is close to that issue that we have referenced, at least in the agenda, and I saw that he recently posted something else as well, basically saying, as far as Drush's abstraction goes, they're pretty much done on their side. Like, the ball is pretty much in our court to write the integration part between Backdrop and the Drush commands.
That is fabulous.
Yeah, so Drush pretty much is a go. We just need to write our part of it, which is pretty nice.
That is amazing. Okay, so last I checked, we had 2 people, Casimir and Mike, I think were working on the Backdrop side of things. I'm not sure either one of them have had any time lately to work on that, but if we have anyone else who's super eager to play with Drush stuff, that might be a good place for anyone to step in and kind of pick up the ball there too, if anyone wants to work on that. That is great. I didn't know that had gotten done, so thank you for adding that. We should maybe update this link in the agenda too to point to our issue for Josh and not Josh's issue for Backdrop.
Yeah, okay.
I'll put a note in here so we get that. Okay. Other stuff we're working on. So Josh sounds like it's coming along really well, which is great. And the next thing we're going to start working on is update checking for Backdrop. And this is kind of a 4-step process here, where what we have now is the Backdrop API site, sorry, not Backdrop CMS.org primary website needs to first house our contributed project information. And this is something Nate has been doing a ton of work on in the last few weeks, porting project module from Drupal to Backdrop, which not only ports it from Drupal to Backdrop, but also changes the way it works. So rather than relying on an in-house Git version control system, it's going to integrate with GitHub. And Nate, I don't know if you want to give a little update on how this works, but this is kind of the first step to our update checking, because we need to be able to tell which version of a module any given site is running, and we need to be able to tell them which version it should be running. And we need to know that information somewhere. So,
yeah, totally. So we also have a section later in the meeting for improvements to backdropcms.org, and this is all kind of tied together, that the update server and the project repository listing on backdropcms.org are generally kind of the same thing, because they're both powered by project module, or at least that's the way it's built out on Drupal.org. And for our initial iteration, because update module is already in 1.0 and we can't really do anything about the code that's currently in 1.0, or that is on all the sites that are already out there, we need to somehow make it so that update module, it's currently connecting to one of our servers, and we need to make that server return the proper XML to say whether or not new updates are available. And since project module is the one that provided that XML in Drupal 7, it's the easiest path forward for us to port project module and have it provide that same XML feed to all of the existing Backdrop sites that are out there. So project module, I put it up 2 weeks ago now into the Backdrop contrib group, but only recently it's actually kind of been functioning and working properly. So project module itself is ported, project release module is ported, most of project usage is ported, and all of these are in the one project module project. But the one piece that's really crucial that isn't working for either project usage or project release module is that the scripts that do the actual generation of the XML that get returned back to the sites hasn't been completed yet. And that's because at least the Drupal 7 versions were dependent upon Drush, which, as we just said, Drush isn't quite done yet. But they're so crazy, like I think I might just port the Drupal 6 versions instead, which were just like raw PHP scripts, because they were all MySQL based, and the Drupal 7 version somehow got all mixed up, like storing its usage information in a Mongo database, and it checks the varnish logs to like check the status of things. I mean, it's just crazy and super tied into Drupal.org specific infrastructure. And I think it would be better if we kind of took a step back and did the simple approach instead, which I think for us is going to be fine for a long time to come. So anyway, things are coming along. The next part after all of this is right now there's no actual integration with GitHub, but we've got a plan to go forward with that, and we'll probably throw in a new project into, or a new module into the project repository for project_GitHub that will do the integrations between GitHub and project module. So it's coming along. I think we'll probably have something kind of going definitely by the next release of Backdrop, which is around DrupalCon, May 15th. So that's that.
Yay. All right. So along the lines of that, Nate mentioned we're doing a bunch of work on backdropcms.org. We're also trying to get the design piece put together. At the same time, we're putting the back end for managing projects And Darius has got a first version, which looks like there's a link up here, of the Find a Module page. We're also going to be working similarly on a Find a Theme page and a Find a Layout page, or Find Your Layout Set page, or whatever that's going to be. And then also the what the module page, the theme page, and the layout page actually look like. So those are underway, and we have we'll do another design review meeting with Darius later today to get the next step of those done. And hopefully we'll be able to get the information architecture and the design done at roughly the same time, so we can build them both and stick them together. And then people will be much happier about how to find module themes and layouts for Backdrop. So in addition to getting update status working, we'll also improve the end user experience for Backdrop stuff, which I think is great. We're planning on doing a bunch of other stuff on the Backdrop primary site too, and I think as soon as we get modules, themes, and layouts done, the next step will be to build a showcase, because as we've been talking to people about Backdrop, their number 2 question always seems to be, hey, do you know of any sites that are actually running it right now? And we know, of course, of, backdropcms.org, the API site, and a couple sites that Nate and I have built, and a bunch of developers have put together blogs. But since we have 32 contributed authors and 100 contributed projects, I'm assuming there's a bunch more websites in the works. And even if they aren't done now, it would be great if we gave people a place to kind of go and show off what they've been working on. So I think the next step for our API site will be to build a showcase. So anyone who has built a Backdrop site and is really proud of it can go ahead and throw it on the showcase site, and we can use that as, hey, look, here's a place for people to see what sites have been running on it. And then that way, not only when we're asked at camps and conferences what sites are running Backdrop, we can point them at the showcase, but anyone who's just curious about Backdrop and stumbles across the site will be able to find that and see for themselves. So I think that is kind of our next step for the website after we get modules, themes, and layouts done. For Backdrop itself, we had a, I don't know that this is up to date, but we had a security release, was it last week? Drupal security release? I think you're muted, Nate, but I think what he said is that was from 2 weeks ago.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so we have an upcoming patch release. We don't know when it's going to be out because we don't have any super critical bug fixes in our queue that need to be released. But obviously there's a ton of bugs, and we'll find and fix them as we go along. And when we find that's ready, we'll issue another release. Nate, I don't know if that security release that came out for Drupal applies to us, or
no, there was a release 7.36 just came out yesterday, like literally just yesterday, but that's not a security release. That's just a bug fixing status release. I don't think that they've had this is the first new version of Drupal 7 that's come out that wasn't a security release in like 2 or 3 months. So okay. There's like a good, probably somewhere between like 30 and 40 issues there that we should get all of those things ported over into Backdrop.
Okay, so we have an issue, 843, that is a meta, I'm guessing, of all of the patches that are in the latest version of Drupal 7 that we should get applied to Backdrop, and hopefully those will be in the next minor release, 1.0.6. We don't know when that'll be out yet, but whenever it is out, it will contain those same changes.
Yep.
Okay. So that's our next patch release. Our next minor release is Backdrop 1.1.0, and that'll come out on May 15th, 2015, which was, nice parity to our initial release, which was January 15th. It just so happens that May 15th falls at the end of DrupalCon, so we're going to try and do a Backdrop release party, and this is the last night of DrupalCon, so anyone who is still in town, staying in town over the weekend around that evening and wants to come and have a beer with us or soda, whatever your fancy might be. We're going to try and do something at one of the nearby breweries. We found 4 of them, little brew pubs that are within Ubering distance from the LA Convention Center. And so we thought it might be fun to do a little backdrop release party the night of 1.1 coming out. So I think that that'll work nicely. If you are planning on going to DrupalCon LA, haven't made your travel plans yet, want to come hang out with the Backdrop crew, book for an extra night and come hang out with us on Friday. So I think that'll be really fun. In that next version, 1.1.0, we currently are planning on including token module and core, Path Auto module and core, a new branded admin look and feel, and the rich text editor at this point, which is a super high priority but also super complicated, is probably going to get bumped to 1.2 just because we only have a month and a half left before we can get that done, and there hasn't been any significant progress on it yet. I expect we'll probably need more time than that to get it done. So it is on the chopping block currently, unless we have someone who comes in who's super motivated to get it done and cranks it out for us. But on the other things, token module is coming along really well. I have almost finished merging it into core. I have my own branch somewhere that I've got failing tests on it right now, but I think it's pretty close. It does almost everything that token does currently. There's a couple of pieces of functionality that I've removed from token module. There's some stuff like Devel module support, which I think should get moved into Devel, and there's some crazy things like block title replacement tokens that I'm not sure need to stay in token module. So I've got a list of all of the stuff that I'm pulling out as I'm porting, as well as anything significant that's been changed. So if we need to put in any change records, we can. But for the most part, it's just moving code around and putting it in core where it belongs rather than in a module that alters the stuff that comes from core. And so far, it's gone really smoothly. So hopefully we'll get that done soon. And then we also have Jeff working on built-in Path Auto module. He was here a minute ago. Is he still here? No. And I'm not sure how much progress he's made on that. I don't know, Nate, if you got an update last week, but I know 2 weeks ago he hadn't had very much time to look at it lately. But I think that'll probably also go a lot faster once we get token in core. Right now he's depending on token and contrib and just kind of trying to figure out where all of the UI pieces belong. But we can touch base with him in IRC and in the queue and see how that's going too. The admin look and feel, I think, is also coming along. I haven't talked to Wes recently. Nate, do you want to talk about what pull requests we have and what the status of those is?
Yeah, I think we merged in another one since last week. Can't recall which one, though. I looked at, Wes and I have been working on figuring out tabs this week, and I think that we've got it mostly figured out. At least we're on the same page about what needs to be fixed. But I think that there's like a tiny display issue still on tabs. But other than that, it's good to go. So we'll probably see a couple more of those issues merged in this week to continue pulling things along. But the overall appearance of things still looks pretty broken. There's a new branch we made a couple weeks ago called 1.x-new-style that is in the Backdrop CMS main repository. So if you want to see how the new admin style looks so far, you can check it out there. But of course, the final version, you should reference the style guide, and you can see how much nicer everything looks there.
Okay. So Jeff, you dropped out perfectly right when we were like, I wonder if he's been able to make any progress on Path Auto module. It's okay if you haven't, but I just wanted to say if you wanted to give us an update. Okay, that's fine. We were also saying that would probably start going a lot faster once token was done. So I'll try and get that wrapped up today. And then hopefully you can start working with token and core rather than token and contrib, or at least a local branch or something. Okay. So other things we're working on, those are kind of our big pieces of what we want to get in for 1.1 is token, Path Auto, and the new admin look and feel. But we obviously have a bunch of other stuff that we're working on all the time in Backdrop. We have a bunch of user experience improvements. We have a bunch of developer experience improvements. And of course, any bugs that you find anywhere, we'll try and fix and get those in even sooner than 1.1. And we've got tags in our issue queue for each milestone. So if you want to see what's coming up for 1.0.6, you can look at a milestone 1.06. If you want to see what's coming up for 1.1, you can do that. I think we've also scheduled 1.2. But I don't think there's a milestone yet for 1.3. But if you wanted to look a little bit into the future, we also have a roadmap on our primary Backdrop CMS.org site that lists a couple of the things we're planning on doing in the future. And then in our issue queue, we also have, in addition to milestones, there's a bunch of tags. So if you want to look for issues that you specifically want to work on, design-related tasks, there's a tag for things that we need design help on. Or if you feel like you are novice to contributing and you want to find something that's easy, or if you're tired of working on a hard issue and you want to find something that's easy, you can go ahead and grab, there's a novice tag, which should be something that should be either quick or easy in terms of getting done. Some of the things I tag novice are not actually novice. So if you find one and you think it's really hard, go ahead and remove the novice tag and find another one. Sometimes it sounds easy, and then when you actually get into the weeds, it turns out not to be. And then we also have issues grouped by what they're targeting. So the user experience issues, instead of having a tag in the queue, has little square brackets in the title, and it says UX. And then developer experience issues are tagged with DX. The developer experience issues are sometimes a little harder to sort out because we have to be careful not to change any APIs in the 1.x cycle. But if you find something that's a little weird from a developer experience, let us know, because we do want to make things less weird and easier for developers. So we can fix that in 2.x if we can't add some kind of backwards compatibility or a wrapper function or something in 1.x. Every Thursday after this meeting, we have a little sprint. You can join in IRC at #Backdrop. We also have a Reddit. If IRC isn't your thing, you want to ask questions to the Backdrop group. It is reddit.com/r/backdrop. You can go ahead and ask questions in there. There are people in there who answer questions, which is really great. And if there aren't people in there who can answer your questions, sometimes the people in there will ping the people who can answer your question. So that's also super handy for people who aren't necessarily IRC or GitHub familiar. So that's a good resource for lots of people to use. And then upcoming, we have this meeting every Thursday. We have a design meeting, usually fortnightly, right before this meeting. We skipped this week's because none of our design folks were around to attend. But that's where we work on, those are often working meetings rather than kind of meetings like this, which is a review meeting where we try and look at designs and decide what we want to do, or we strategize how to solve problems, or what kind of logo we want on our t-shirt, stuff like that, which can be kind of fun if nothing else. And we'll have the next one in 2 weeks, and then this meeting every week on Thursday at 1 p.m. California time. And then we have a calendar. If you're interested in subscribing to these events, there's an iCal feed from Google Calendar. There's a link in the subreddit as well as on our weekly agenda. And we also have an event calendar that's currently listing all Drupal camps and Drupal camps that are Backdrop friendly. So anywhere that you've been asked to speak about Backdrop, or people are going to be there who are interested in hearing about Backdrop, you're going to be attending, you want to give a session on Backdrop, anything like that, we'd like to add that to our calendar. Currently, there's only one upcoming camp on there, which is the Twin Cities Drupal Camp, which is in June. But if anyone is going to be attending a Drupal camp that is interested in knowing more about Backdrop, or are going to be giving a session, let us know and we'll stick it on that calendar, so other people who are interested in talking about Backdrop with other Drupal folks will know where they can go to do that, where it's nice, safe, friendly environment to have that. I have added one event to that calendar, which is the Backdrop 1.1 release party, which is going to be on May 15th. It's currently scheduled for 7 p.m., but we have not made reservations at a brewery yet. So if that ends up having to change when we make official reservations, so I'll update the iCal event. So if you want to subscribe to that, You can. If not, you can just crash. That's fine too. We'll probably have a first round of drinks on Doug Van. He has very generously offered to put down some money for that, which is great. But if we end up having like 500 people, we need to not run him out of the under the ground. So just keep an eye on that. But yeah, other things happening. Let's see. We've got a couple of articles in the next Drupal Watchdog, which should be really fun. And let's see, Stanford Drupal Camp, I think, is in 2 weeks. Not this coming weekend, but the weekend after. Luke, are you going to be at Stanford Camp this year?
I'm going to try. I'm going to be out of town getting in on the afternoon of Saturday. So probably not, but I'm going to try to make it.
Okay. I also was going to try to make it. I haven't actually been requested by anyone to attend or to speak on Backdrop. But I feel like if I'm there, I can kind of talk to people in the hallways or over lunch or something, even if there's no official Backdrop thing. So I haven't added it to the calendar. I know they're very Drupal forward at Stanford, and it'll be good to see what they're doing with Drupal, if nothing else. So I'm excited to attend that, at least for one day, if not maybe for both. But yeah, so I don't know what else is going on, but anyone who wants to add anything can. And then I guess that's all we have for the agenda this week. But if anyone has any questions or comments or wants to bring anything else up in this meeting, now might be a time to do that.
Yeah, I'm reading over Andy's question here.
Me too.
So Andy has asked in the Hangout chat here, after the style guide changes get updated or implemented, is it possible to schedule a live chat to answer questions and let people know human interface guidelines and/or porting or for people that are porting or creating themes? Some people are a little confused over what a theme should cover. Obviously, not layouts, but what. Other people don't know it. Drupal teamers seem to struggle and have lots of questions. So this is kind of a lot of questions about themes in general and the style guide changes and the human interface guidelines, which is a whole bunch of different parts of things. But the style guide changes. The style guide, we should be clear about what the style guide actually is right now. The style guide is a new set of styles for the 7 administrative themes. So all that we're actually doing is we're just basically making a new admin theme for Backdrop so that when you go to any of the administrative pages, it'll look different than Drupal 7 did. And so once that gets implemented, it won't really have any effect on anybody that's building themes out there because we're not really doing anything other than making a new admin theme. That's all that it really is. The human interface guidelines is another area in which we're working, but that is mostly about documenting when to use certain functional elements that Backdrop provides, like when to use drop buttons and when to use vertical tabs and when to use field sets. And so all of those things is actually more about, it's actually more for module developers, telling them when they should use certain design elements that Backdrop provides out of the box, which ones are appropriate where. So that one actually won't have much of an impact either. And then lastly, Jen, I think you're giving me some feedback. Okay. Okay, and then lastly, just how themes in general are built and how themes work. I do think that it would be great for us to put together some documentation and probably a video tutorial as well, talking about how to build a theme, because themes are different in Backdrop than they are in Drupal 7, but mostly because layouts and themes are decoupled from each other. So I think just in general, I think that's the crux of the question, that it's like people need more information about how to port themes, and I totally agree with that, and we can work on improving that. Did I answer just about everything, Andy? Sorry, everybody.
I was just going to throw in. I've got sort of a monkey wrench question comment that entails with that is that I'm teaching a web development class over at Berkeley, and currently I'm planning as sort of the group project to have my 15 students all try to create backdrop themes. So I would be a consumer of such a guide if we manage to get one, because I think based on what the last section of the class did, I think I can guide them through creating themes. So we'll have a bunch of themes, and if we have some sort of guidance as to what we'd like to see from the beginning students, that'd be useful.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I would say the best learning tool, at least we did this for Drupal themes back when I was teaching theming classes, is just taking a theme from some other, just like some random website, one of those like theme forests or something like that, and just porting the generic CSS. So don't actually have your students, your students probably aren't going to be designers. So take an existing design and accommodate that to and into a backdrop theme, and try to work out a process for doing that. And for starters, I'd probably recommend everybody do the same theme. Porting 15 different themes all at once could be just a huge mess. So I'd probably say pick one yourself and like kind of prepare it a little bit, and then give your students like the raw like asset files, and then have them turn that into a theme. So they'll all actually be building the same theme is probably what I would recommend. Just from a teaching perspective, that'll make life a lot easier. Although from an end product perspective, there probably will only be one theme instead of 15, but there'll be one usable theme instead of 15 unusable ones.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's part of the art studio. So in fact, they are artists. So I'm actually going to really just sort of let them. They don't necessarily have to be usable. I'm not really expecting them to create brilliant stuff. I just want to make it seem accessible. Just we did it with WordPress themes last time. And just this time, I'm so much more familiar with the way Drupal/backdrop works that I figure I can guide them through what they need to know to attach, to do some customizations and have working themes. They're not going to be the greatest themes ever, but they'll function. They'll be able to choose them and make the site flip over to them.
Awesome.
At least that's the dream. We'll see if it works out.
Yeah, well, yeah, in that case, yeah, it's still totally doable and totally possible. The hardest part of any theme usually is the layout portion of things. So with that not being an issue, that'll let them focus more on, implementing the design portion of things and not needing to understand how a responsive layout is built, or how floats work, which I'm not sure what kind of level they are at, but that can be a difficult concept for people.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it's going to be super simple. Like it'll count if they just make it. Okay, this one's red, this one's blue.
Yeah.
So anything beyond that is just all gravy.
Awesome.
So, we'll see how it works out.
Great. Anything else? Okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Jen, do you have any last words?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you guys. We'll be in IRC, Pound Backdrop, and happy Backdrop Day, and happy April.
Hi, everyone.
All right, bye guys.